Hi, and welcome back to this second hour of Focal Point on AFR Talk. And I was reminded just before the end of the last segment, I was talking about the condition of white farmers in South Africa now, where they have been disarmed by their government, by Nelson Mandela's political party, by his successors. I'm not saying Mandela's responsible for this, but his successors, those who have embraced his ideology, those who are perpetuating the legacy of his political party have disarmed these white farmers, so they now no longer have the capacity to defend themselves, and these horrible atrocities are being carried out against them. Their land is being confiscated. This is not really too much different. That's what happened along the border, where our government has actually taken, in that one case, I don't remember the details, specific details, but I remember us talking about it on this program, where the government seized a man's ranch or his farm purportedly because of the way he treated illegal aliens who came across his property, and they took it from him. They just confiscated it. And that's what's happening to white farmers in South Africa. So Nelson Mandela was in prison for 27 years because he deserved to be. He blew up innocent women and children. And the South Africa that his political legacy has created is really a reverse apartheid, where now it's more dangerous to be a white farmer in South Africa than to be a policeman in South Africa. Well, let's grab a phone call. 888-589-8840, number to call. 888-589-8840, number to call if you want to join the program. Let's go to Sally, Houston, Texas. Sally, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
I can't figure out why Ted Cruz is going to his funeral.
Well, I'll tell you, Ted Cruz said some nice things about Nelson Mandela. And again, I understand that he's a political figure. Nelson Mandela was a political figure, and you want to say kind of nice things. But I'm telling you, Sally, he's gotten absolutely blistered by people for all of these wonderful things he said about Mandela, because there's a lot of people, that know that there are two sides to this guy. And I think they were critical of Ted Cruz because it was like Ted Cruz had blinders on about the side of Mandela that's actually not very appealing.
Well, I think Ted Cruz is too smart not to know both sides.
I'm sure he does.
I would love to know why. He's the only senator, as far as I know, that's attending the funeral. I really don't get it.
Well, and I'll tell you, again, I'm not going to try to psychoanalyze Ted Cruz, and this is just an educated guess. But, I think Ted Cruz would like to be president. And there are a whole bunch of presidents going to Mandela's funeral. So I think Ted Cruz, from a political standpoint, sees this as kind of a presidential style move. He's sort of acting like presidents act. He's doing kind of a presidential thing. So I honestly think, Sally, that this is his first campaign appearance in the campaign for the Oval Office in 2016. That's what Ted Cruz is doing in South Africa. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. Again, I'm not going to be hard on him, because Nelson Mandela was obviously a very prominent political figure. He was the president of a foreign country, and it's not wrong to give honor where honor is due. So you do commend somebody for the good things that they do, and there are good things that Nelson Mandela did. But I'm with you, Sally. I think a lot of people, this raised more questions about Ted Cruz probably than anything else he's done. I mean, a lot of people were kind of stunned that he was so complimentary of Mandela, because they know that the guy was a communist and killed innocent people.
I think he would have been better off just to say, rather than say wonderful things about Mandela, just say, I'm going because I will represent, this is my choice to represent the Republican Party for blah, blah, blah. I mean, maybe he can't say that because they'd come down on him for that, but I wish he'd come up with a better reason.
Yeah, well, I think you got a lot of company in that, Sally. I agree. I agree with you. Thank you for the call. I appreciate that. And there's a sheriff in South Carolina. I don't know if you saw this. There's a sheriff in South Carolina that will not lower the flag in his county to half-mast, even though President Obama has ordered everybody in the country to do it. And he's not doing it because of Mandela. He's saying, look, this is America. I think we only ought to lower flags to half-staff for Americans who have served their country or who have offered their lives in sacrifice or have suffered some sort of tragedy. It's appropriate for those cases, for American citizens, we lower our flags to half-staff, but not for somebody who was not an American. 888-589-8840. Let's grab clip number 5. Jeff teased it in the opening for this hour. The left just falls over backwards trying to invent new charges of racism against conservatives. It's amazing. Everything is race with these people. I just ignore most of it. I am so tired of this bogus accusation of racism. I'm just tired of it. And it's just like, and I just ignore most of it because it's just petty and it's juvenile. But here is Melissa Harris Perry from MSNBC. This is the same woman, remember, that said your children ought to be taken away from you because they belong to the village. They don't belong to you. They belong to the states. That's an antiquated notion that kids belong to their parents. That's antiquated. That's out of date. We got to get past that. We got to understand that children really belong to the state, and the state of the ones has a responsibility to direct their upbringing and their brainwashing and their indoctrination. Well, here, and remember Obama said on the campaign trail about Obamacare, I like it because I care. He embraced the term Obamacare. He used it himself on the campaign trail. So apparently, according to Melissa Harris Perry, President Obama is a racist. Let's listen.
I want to talk today about a controversial word. It's a word that has been with us for years. And like it or not, it's indelibly printed in the pages of American history. A word that was originally intended as a derogatory term, meant to shame and divide and demean. The word was conceived of by a group of wealthy white men who needed a way to put themselves above and apart from a black man, to render him inferior and unequal, and to diminish his accomplishments. President Obama has been labeled with this word by his opponents. And at first he rose above it, hoping that if he could just make a cause for what he'd achieved, his opponents would fail in making their label stick. But no matter how many successes that he had as president, he realized there were still many people for whom he'd never be anything more than that one disparaging word. A belief he knew was held not just by his political opponents, but also by a significant portion of the American electorate. And so he decided, if you can't beat him, you got to join him. And he embraced the word and made it his own, sending his opposition a message they weren't expecting. If that's what you want me to be, I'll be that. Y'all know the word that I'm talking about. Obamacare. That's right, I said it and I'm not ashamed, and neither is President Obama, because he knows that of all his victories over 2 terms in office, his legacy is ultimately going to be remembered for this one single word.
Which, according to Melissa Harris Perry, is a racist word that was found on the lips of President Obama himself. Now, according to her standards, I mean, I didn't put words in her mouth. She said this is a racist word. And yet President Obama, according to her, embraced it and made it his own. I don't know any other way to describe that. According to her logic, President Obama himself is a racist. Focal point, AFR Talk. Got a text from Debbie that she sounds ridiculous, and she absolutely does. I mean, that's just sort of mindless bloviation there, and not even apparently realizing she's accusing her own president of being a racist. Focal point, AFR Talk. We'll be back right after this. Stay with us.